Hey, it's Mark Marshall with Anatomy of Tone. This is part 2 of a video series I've created about creating self-imposed limitations for working out melody lines and playing over chord changes. The first example, I used a technique that I was just focusing on the first, second, third, and fifth notes of the mode that was related to the chord that we're playing over. Mentioning that it's just a good idea sometimes to have a smaller collection of notes that we're going to use over a solo section rather than having unlimited options, so we get option paralysis. We get option paralysis sometimes when there's too many options. We can't make a decision because there's millions of decisions, and we want to create smaller options or fewer options so that we can be more creative. It's funny how sometimes by limiting your options will actually make you more creative than having unlimited options. So you go back and watch that first video if you like that exercise, or that first strategy as I called it, for working out melody lines over chord changes, getting used to playing over chord changes, is super valid, and they don't necessarily run in series, so you don't have to do part 1 before part 2, but it'll give you a little bit more idea about some of the concepts I'm talking about, and these ideas are just, they're interchangeable. But as I mentioned in the first video, each one you should spend a fair amount of time on. This is really not something to spend like, I don't know, just a one day on, or it's like you should be working this stuff out for several weeks. It takes 30 to 60 days to develop a habit, and I think a lot of students don't understand that, and they come to me and they think they come back 1 week later and they don't have something mastered, and I think everybody feels a little defeated when that happens, because we have this notion that when we're practicing or we're learning, that after 1 week or just when we're given the information that it's a done deal and we're supposed to have it perfectly digested. But it really takes a considerable amount of more time in order for us to really let the information ferment and settle in our minds. Okay, this example, I'm going to play the same chord changes I played in the first video series, which was, I'm going to play B flat 7, it's dominant chord, to E flat minor 7, and then I'm going to play D7 sharp 11 to D flat major 7th. Now if I voice some more in a jazz way, this is B flat 7, E flat minor 7, this is going to be the D7 sharp 11 to D flat major 7. Okay. So this B flat 7 is the secondary dominant of E flat minor 7, and then this D7 sharp 11 is a tritone substitution for the A flat, which is the 5th chord of D flat major. So it's basically a 2-5-1 that I just spiced up a little bit. Put a secondary dominant in, and I also just used a tritone substitution with a sharp 11. It's a nice tension, and that works really well over sharp 11 chords. Okay, so the melody line I'm going to play over the B flat 7. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start on a chord tone and work down to the closest chord tone using scale motion. Meaning, if I'm playing an F over a B flat chord, which is where I'm starting, if I move backwards, the next chord tone is going to be D. Right, so the 3 notes that make up our B flat 7 chord, or 4 notes really, is B flat, D, F, A flat. So I start on F, and I work my way back to the closest one. So now there's really only one, well actually if we can move our way back, there's one note in between, right? So we only have this E flat that gets between our closest chord tone in B flat. So I'm going to use this as a stepwise motion to just snake through the notes a little more. So I'm connecting them instead of feeling like they're jumping and we have any leaps, that they're actually just like stepwise motion moving between chord tones, which is a major way that scales actually get used and modes get used in like a more of a run perspective. Like they're not just random runs, they're usually starting and ending on a chord tone. So that's what we're going to do. I made it pretty simple. As I mentioned in the first video, the rhythm nature of this is pretty static. If I'm working on one thing that's complex, I try to keep all other elements pretty simple. We're working on harmony on this and want to set up a rhythmic pattern that's real easy. So just 1/8 notes on the front half of the bar, and then I just have half notes on the second half of the bar. Real simple. Depending on how many notes you have between the chord tones, you may have 4/8 notes or 4/8 notes and a whole note, a half note, or just even 3/8 notes. So it can vary because the distance is going to vary, as we'll see. So for the B flat 7 chord, I start on the 5th. and then I move down 4, 3, right? Okay, so now we're going to this E flat minor 7 chord. So I decided to, I could either go either way. I could either go down to the D flat because that's a chord tone, or I could go up to E flat, which is the root of the E flat minor chord. So I went up to the root. So I went on this B flat. I went down to the third of B flat. Then I'm going to go to the root of E flat minor 7. And I walked my way down to the 5th of E flat, because that, aside from the 7th, that was just so close. I wanted to have some more notes, so I traveled down to B flat, even though technically D flat was the closest chord tone. I walked all the way down to the B flat. Now when we got to that D7 sharp 11, I walked from the A, G sharp, F sharp, E, D. So this has the most notes in it. We got 5 notes here. We've got the 5th of the D7 sharp 11, we got the sharp 11, we got the major 3rd, we got the 2nd of the 9th, and then we have the root. Right? And then when I get to the D flat major 7th, I move down to D flat as the root. Major 7th, technically the closest chord tone, but I want to go a little further. So I walk down to the 5th actually. So the whole thing is, and then I'm gonna go, I'm not even worried about rhythm right now, I'm just kind of playing, right, and then that's it, right, and that's gonna work over this chord. Okay, I'm gonna play the tape recorder and give the example. You'll hear that D7 sharp 11. That's a spicy chord, so it gives us some nice color in it. There was one thing about landing on the A flat over the tonic chord, the D flat major 7, is that that's not the best resolution note, and that's great for maybe the what I would call the question part of the phrase. So if this is 4 bars we're working on now. If this was 8 bars, this would make a great ending for the first 4 bars. Often at the end of the phrase, you want to have a little more resolution, and the tonic is the strongest resolution that we have. So if you want to end a phrase with a definitive statement, it's also a nice idea to end it on the 1, and any other interval aside from the 1 is going to have varying degrees of is more unstable and going to leave more of a question rather than it being a definitive answer. I decided to just work on the A flat in this one. I like that unresolved sound, and also be able to discuss this idea of resolution and different choices for resolution. Now I did this in D flat, and it was a hard key, and a lot of people are going to be like sweat this one. I will have a chart available on my website in C. I do normally in my lessons, I relate everything to the key of C, because I feel like if we understand everything in the key of C, we can play it in any other key, and it's functionally so much more easy to understand that way than immediately feeling like you need to jump around to a bunch of different keys. But I'm also trying to push some students outside of the key of C, and myself included, which is why I wanted to use this example in D flat. But again, anatomyofguitartone.com. Send me an email there. I will send you a PDF of the version in C, and then you'll be able to practice this. So I can't recommend enough just the power of writing it out on paper. I write all these examples out on paper before I put them into Sibelius, which you see here. And there's example 2 down here, and we could talk about the fingerings real quick on this. I used the first finger for the F over the B flat 7, then my 3rd finger to my 2nd finger. Now when I play this E flat minor 7 chord, I move to my pinky, 2nd finger, 1st finger, pinky. Now for this D7 sharp 11, I move my pinky down, 3rd finger, 1st finger, 4th finger, 2nd finger. Now for this D flat major 7th, I move my middle finger down, 1st finger, 4th finger, 2nd finger. So Send me a message if you have any questions, leave comments, subscribe to this channel if you're digging it, and we'll be continuously uploading content. And this works on any instrument as well. I'm using guitar in this example because it's what I have in my hands right now, but this is great to practice on piano or bass or trumpet, anything.